In the southwestern part of the Indo-Chinese peninsula of Southeast Asia lies the country of Cambodia. Modern Cambodia is a remnant of the powerful Khmer Empire. At its height from the 11th to the 13th century, the Khmer Empire ruled much of what is now Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. In more recent times Cambodia has endured great turmoil, French colonization, the brutal regime of the Khmer Rouge, and Vietnamese occupation. In the 1990s Cambodia finally regained a measure of political stability and began to recover from decades of conflict. The capital of Cambodia is Phnom Penh. Area 69,898 square miles, 181,035 square kilometers. Population, 2020 est. 15,535,000. Land and climate. Cambodia is bordered to the west and northwest by Thailand and to the northeast by Laos. Vietnam borders Cambodia to the east and southeast. The southwestern part of Cambodia lies on the Gulf of Thailand, an inlet of the South China Sea. Cambodia is largely a land of plains and great rivers. In the center of the country is a low-lying plain, which is surrounded by uplands and mountains. The central plain rises gently from the Gulf of Thailand in the south to the Dangrek Mountains in the north. In the Kravan, Cardamom Mountains in the southwest rises the country's highest peak, Mount Aoral, at 5,949 feet, 1,813 meters. To the west a low divide separates Cambodia from Thailand. The Mekong River flows southward from Laos through eastern Cambodia. In the central lowland lies the Tonle Sap, Great Lake, which serves as a natural flood reservoir for the Mekong River. During the dry season the lake covers an area of about 1,200 square miles, 3,100 square kilometers, and has a depth of only about 5 feet, 1.5 meters. During the rainy season the Mekong floodwaters flow up the Tonle Sap River, expanding the lake's area to more than 3,000 square miles, 7,800 square kilometers, and increasing its depth to as much as 45 feet, 14 meters. Cambodia has a tropical climate. It is always warm to hot in the lowlands, with temperatures seldom below 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 degrees Celsius. There are two major seasons. The rainy season, from mid-May through early October, comes with the southwest monsoon. Its strong winds bring heavy rain and high humidity. From early November to mid-March the lighter winds of the northeast monsoon bring in frequent rainfall and lower humidity. Annual rainfall varies by region, from about 50 to 55 inches, 127 to 140 centimeters, in the central lowland to more than 200 inches, 500 centimeters, in parts of the southwestern highlands. Plants and animals. Much of Cambodia is covered by forests. Tall evergreen trees, bamboo, vines, and palms grow in the northern mountains. The southwestern highlands contain pine forests in the higher regions and rainforests near the sea. Rice paddies, fields of crops, and grasslands cover the central plain. Along the many floodplains are narrow strips of good alluvial soil. The banks of the Tonle Sap and Mekong rivers have fertile soils that are renewed annually by the silt of the flood season. The animals of Cambodia include monkeys, buffalo, panthers, leopards, civets, and crocodiles. Among the common birds are herons, pelicans, cormorants, pheasant, and ducks. A number of Cambodia's species, notably the Asian elephant and the Indo-Chinese tiger, are endangered because of illegal hunting and habitat loss. People and culture. Cambodia has always been a country of villages. Only about a fifth of the population lives in urban areas. The only major city is the capital, Phnom Penh. Ethnicity, language, and religion. Most of the people of Cambodia belong to the Khmer ethnic group. The Khmer have lived in what is now Cambodia for more than 2,000 years. Their language, also called Khmer, belongs to the Mon-Khmer group of Austroasiatic languages. The Khmer are primarily an agricultural people who are concentrated in the central lowland and along the coast. The largest ethnic minorities in Cambodia are the Chinese and the Vietnamese. The Chinese once controlled the country's economic life. During the rise of the communist guerrilla movement called the Khmer Rouge in 1975, however, the Chinese were forced to become ordinary peasants. As a result, many Chinese people left Cambodia. Some Chinese returned after a Vietnamese invasion ousted the Khmer Rouge government in 1979. The Chinese regained some of their former influence as Cambodia's urban centers were revived. After the Vietnamese invasion, a pro-Vietnamese government ruled Cambodia until 1989. During that period, a large number of Vietnamese immigrants settled in Cambodia. Cambodia's other ethnic minorities include the Cham Malay, known in Cambodia as the Khmer Islam or Western Cham, and various highland tribes of the northeast. Most of the population follows Buddhism, which has a long tradition among the Khmer. The Cham Malay are Muslim, and some of the Vietnamese are Roman Catholic. Thousands of Cambodians, especially Khmer who live in urban areas, have converted to Protestantism. A small portion of the population practices folk and traditional religions. Education and social welfare. The Khmer Rouge government dismantled the educational system of Cambodia in the 1970s. Only elementary schools were allowed to operate, and the literacy rate dropped below 60%. After the Khmer Rouge regime was overthrown, the new government prioritized primary education and reopened secondary schools and institutions of higher education. The literacy rate improved, but the educational system continued to suffer from shortages of money, materials, and trained teachers. Lack of funding and personnel has also created public health problems. Such infectious diseases as malaria, tuberculosis, and pneumonia are common. In the early 21st century, the HIV/AIDS prevalence was the highest among all Asian countries, though aggressive government programs significantly reduced the proportion of the population infected with the virus. Cambodia still has millions of active landmines remaining from decades of warfare. These have killed or maimed tens of thousands of people. Considerable international effort has focused on removing the landmines and providing prosthetic limbs for landmine victims. Economy. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing. Cambodia is one of the world's poorest countries, though its economy began to improve steadily in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Agriculture is the most important sector of the economy. Most of the labor force works in farming, fishing, or forestry. Rice is by far the most important crop. It is grown with the aid of irrigation or floodwaters during the rainy season. A number of farmers grow floating rice on the deep water next to the natural levees of the Mekong River. The country's other major crops include cassava, corn, maize, sugarcane, soybeans, coconuts, and rubber. Fruits, grown for local consumption, include bananas, oranges, and mangoes. Livestock raising has a role in the economy, supplying draft animals for use in agriculture and local transportation and some meat. Fishing is important to both the local economy and the food supply. Fish serve as the main source of protein for Cambodians, who eat fish fresh, dried, salted, smoked, and in sauces and pastes. Cambodia's forests were rapidly depleted in the late 20th century through extensive logging. International concern about deforestation and the accompanying ecological damage pressured the Cambodian government into imposing bans on logging. However, illegal logging continued. Manufacturing. Cambodia's small industrial sector was devastated by the warfare of the 1970s and recovered only slowly in the 1980s. In the early 1990s, the few industries in operation included rice milling, rubber and timber processing, and cigarette production. In the years that followed, however, significant growth took place in the manufacture of such products as clothing, textiles, and beverages. A serious impediment to industrial development in Cambodia has been a lack of modern equipment. Services. Tourism is the most important component of the service sector. It has attracted some foreign investment in hotel and resort construction. Cambodia's exports traditionally consisted almost entirely of rice, rubber, timber, and other agricultural products. In the late 1990s, however, clothing surpassed these traditional exports in importance. Most of the clothing is sent to the United States and Western Europe. Imports, including textiles, machinery, petroleum products, and vehicles, come mainly from China, the United States, Thailand, Vietnam, and other parts of Asia. In 1999, Cambodia joined the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, which promotes trade among its members. Cambodia joined the World Trade Organization, WTO, in 2004. Transportation and communications. Cambodia's road network was heavily damaged in the fighting of the 1970s and 1980s. It remains inadequate, with most of the roads unpaved. However, repair efforts begun in the 1990s made some progress. Major highways connect Phnom Penh with neighboring countries and with Kampong Som, Sihanoukville, the country's only seaport for ocean-going vessels, on the Gulf of Thailand. A key bridge spanning the Tonle Sap River at Phnom Penh, destroyed in 1975, was rebuilt and reopened in the mid-1990s. The first bridge across the Mekong River was opened in 2001, easing travel between eastern and western Cambodia. Cambodia's extensive system of inland waterways has long been used for transportation, especially during the rainy season. Phnom Penh is a Mekong River port accessible to small seagoing ships. Boats also operate on the Tonle Sap. A railroad line connects Phnom Penh to Paoi Phet on the Thai border. Another line runs between the capital and Kampong Som. Telecommunications have developed slowly in Cambodia. The country lags behind its neighbors in the availability of telephone service, but the number of telephone main lines has continued to increase. Cellular phones outnumber telephone main lines by a large margin. Internet usage has also increased, but the number of people with access remains small. Government. Cambodia is a multi-party democracy within the framework of a constitutional monarchy established by the Constitution of 1993. The king, who serves as chief of state, is chosen from one of three royal lines by the Royal Throne Council. The king appoints the prime minister, who serves as head of the government, and a cabinet, the Council of Ministers. Cambodia's legislature consists of two houses, the National Assembly and the Senate. The Supreme Court heads the judiciary, which also includes a court of appeals and lower courts. The Constitution provides for a Constitutional Council, which is meant to safeguard the Constitution, and a Supreme Council of the Magistracy, which is intended to maintain the independence of the judiciary. In practice, however, these institutions have been dominated by the executive branch. History. Early history. Historians do not know for certain how long people have lived in what is now Cambodia or where they came from. Evidence suggests that people able to make pottery inhabited the area as early as 4000 BC. The Khmer moved southward into the Mekong Delta from what is now Thailand before 200 BC. During the 1st century's AD, pilgrims and traders from China and India stopped along the coast of Cambodia to exchange silks and metals for spices, aromatic wood, ivory, and gold. Chinese records tell of a kingdom or group of kingdoms called Funan that flourished in southern Cambodia at this time. Its wealth was based on controlling trade between India and China. The influence of Indian cultural institutions in the kingdom was great, with Hinduism coexisting with Buddhism. After Funan declined in the 6th century, a kingdom called Chenla became the dominant power in the region. Its rulers extended their power into what is now Laos and Thailand before losing power late in the 8th century. The Khmer Empire. The founder of the Khmer Empire, Jayawarman II, came to power in 802. Later in the 9th century one of his successors established a capital at Angkor near the Tonle Sap. Between the 11th and the 13th century the Khmer Empire included much of the Indo-Chinese peninsula and incorporated large parts of what is now southern Vietnam, Laos, and eastern Thailand. The Khmer kings ruled one of the largest, most prosperous, and most sophisticated kingdoms in the history of Southeast Asia. As the capital of the Khmer Empire until the 15th century, Angkor became a bustling and wealthy city. The city impressed the Chinese visitor Zhou Daguan, who arrived there with a diplomatic mission in 1296. Zhou's account is the longest and most detailed description of the Khmer capital. He wrote of Angkor as a large, thriving metropolis and one of the most magnificent capitals in all Asia. One of Angkor's greatest monuments was Angkor Wat, a large temple complex built in the 12th century. Today, Angkor is one of the world's most celebrated archaeological sites. By the early 13th century new kingdoms in what is now Thailand rivaled the power of the Khmer Empire. Thai attacks from the west accelerated in the mid-14th century, culminating with the capture of Angkor in 1431. Thereafter the Khmer state lost territory to both Thailand and Vietnam, which vied for supremacy in the region. The Khmer established a new capital on the site of present-day Phnom Penh. By the 18th century, however, their weak kings were forced to seek the protection of their stronger neighbors. French rule. Cambodia was almost divided between Thailand and Vietnam before France made the territory a protectorate in 1863. France, which already controlled neighboring land in Vietnam, viewed Cambodia as a possible future colony. The French gradually increased their role in Cambodia's affairs, and in 1884 they forced the Cambodian king to sign a treaty that virtually transformed Cambodia into a colony. In 1887 the French officially made Cambodia part of French Indochina. The Japanese occupied Cambodia during World War II, but the French returned after Japan's surrender in 1945. Independence and Civil War. In the following years Cambodia's king, Norodom Sihanouk, led a campaign for independence from France. In 1953 independence was won. 2 years later Sihanouk stepped down in favor of his father and became prime minister. In 1960, after his father died and no new king was named, he became chief of state. Sihanouk proclaimed a policy of neutrality in international affairs, but nevertheless Cambodia's borders became a scene of fighting in the Vietnam War. By the mid-1960s North Vietnamese communists were operating from bases in eastern Cambodia. At the same time a Cambodian communist group known as the Khmer Rouge was fighting Sihanouk's government. Domestic opposition to Sihanouk culminated in March 1970 with a National Assembly vote to remove him from office. Lon Nol, an anti-communist general, led the new government. His administration abolished the monarchy and changed the name of the country to the Khmer Republic. Lon Nol ordered offensives aimed at driving out the North Vietnamese, but his inadequately trained and poorly equipped troops were soundly defeated. Sihanouk went to China after his ouster and organized a government in exile. Backed by China and North Vietnam, Sihanouk allied his forces with the Khmer Rouge in opposition to Lon Nol's government, which was supported by the United States. Destructive U.S. bombing raids against communists in Cambodia helped the Khmer Rouge attract support in the countryside. As the Khmer Rouge gained strength, Sihanouk declined in importance. The Khmer Rouge regime. In April 1975 the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, captured Phnom Penh and seized power. The new government renamed the country Democratic Kampuchea. The Khmer Rouge turned all cultivated land into cooperatives and sent city people to rural areas to clear cropland. Phnom Penh became a ghost town. At least 1.5 million people died from overwork, starvation, or disease or were killed during brutal purges of suspected political opponents. Thousands of people fled the country. Vietnam intervenes. Mutual distrust between the Khmer Rouge and Vietnam led to border fighting, and in December 1978 Vietnam invaded Cambodia. Within weeks the Vietnamese drove the Khmer Rouge government from Phnom Penh and installed a new government made up mostly of Cambodian communists who had deserted Pol Pot. The country's name was changed to the People's Republic of Kampuchea. During the 1980s Cambodia began to recover from the disastrous Khmer Rouge years. Cities were repopulated, schools and Buddhist practices were reintroduced, and the economy improved. The country's recovery was hampered, however, by guerrilla warfare against the Vietnamese-backed regime. In 1982 the three resistance groups, Norodom Sihanouk and his followers, the Khmer Rouge, and the anti-communists, formed a government in exile headed by Sihanouk. Constitutional monarchy. Responding to international pressure, Vietnam withdrew its troops from Cambodia in 1989. Peace talks among the four warring factions then intensified. The country was renamed once again, this time as the State of Cambodia. In May 1991 the factions signed a peace accord, but the Khmer Rouge subsequently refused to disarm. The United Nations sponsored elections in Cambodia in 1993. The elections resulted in a coalition government in which Prince Ranariddh, Sihanouk's son, and Hun Sen, a former prime minister during the Vietnamese occupation, shared power as first prime minister and second prime minister. A new constitution restored Cambodia's monarchy and returned Sihanouk to the throne. The Khmer Rouge opposed the elections and continued to fight against the government. By the mid-1990s, however, the Khmer Rouge was collapsing. It had suffered military defeats and lost thousands of defectors to the Cambodian government. Quarreling among the group's leaders also took a toll. In 1997, Pol Pot was arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment by his former colleagues. He died in custody in 1998. Meanwhile, Hun Sen feared an alliance between his coalition partner, Ranariddh, and the Khmer Rouge. He deposed Ranariddh in a violent coup in July 1997. After taking over as prime minister, Hun Sen carried out a mass purge of political opponents and of people loyal to Ranariddh. After legislative elections in 1998, Hun Sen continued as prime minister. King Sihanouk served as head of state until he stepped down in October 2004. Norodom Sihamoni, Sihanouk's son and Ranarid's younger half-brother, became Cambodia's new monarch. Sihanouk continued to be an influential national figure until his death in October 2012. After a long delay, Cambodia began putting former leaders of the Khmer Rouge on trial for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. They were tried by the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, commonly called the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, which was established in 2006. The tribunal was a joint operation between the United Nations and the government of Cambodia. The first trial of a Khmer Rouge official resulted in a guilty verdict in 2010. Two top members of Pol Pot's regime were convicted in 2014, though another key leader died before his trial was completed.